Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi is with us this morning. Congratulations, Chancellor. Thank you for joining us on the programme this morning. What first attracted you to become Chancellor for a man described as a liar, a schemer, a lawbreaker and without integrity?
You don't go into this job to have an easy life. You make some tough decisions every day, and sometimes, you know, it's easy to walk away, but actually it's much tougher to deliver for the country. If you look at where we are today, Kay, we are facing a global battle against inflation. Inflation is raging in Germany and the US. And no, but it's important. You're asking me a question about why I'm doing this job. I'm doing it because I think the team that is in government today is the team that will deliver today a tax cut for 30 million people, £330 today, as we've moved the threshold of national insurance up to £12,500, forgive me. And of course, the work I was doing in education, on skills, those runways for people's careers to take off on. We have a tight labour market, we know that. Yeah. So there's some big challenges facing us. And I do want to... I want to make sure we deal with those challenges. Okay. The people, by the way, who are egging us on to divide and to turn on one another are people like Alistair Campbell. And wherever Alistair Campbell is, you want to be on the opposite side of the argument, in my view. OK. Sometimes, you said sometimes it's easier to walk away. Did you think about it? No, I'm just saying to you in life that it's, you know, having to take tough decisions, as you do when I was in vaccines, when I'm in education and now in the Treasury. There are no easy answers. The most important thing to remember is we've got a task ahead of us to rebuild the economy. We've just come out from, you know, what is the equivalent of a world war. I want to talk about the economy. Let's do broad brush to start with. And, of course, grow the economy. Did you threaten to resign? No, I didn't. No, I didn't threaten to resign at all. Where did that story come from, I wonder? I have... Apparently Liz Truss was going to be Foreign Secretary, the Foreign Secretary was going to be Chancellor, and you said, if it's not me, I'm stepping down. No, I haven't. That is completely untrue. And by the way... No foundation in reality. Absolutely. By the way, this is a team game, and you play for the team and you deliver for the nation. OK. Ultimately, so nothing to do with personal ambition? Our focus has to be about delivery, Kay. Okay, that is the important... Nothing to do with personal ambition? No, because look, as I said to you, sometimes, you know, walking away, you know, may give you some you know, respite, dare I say, but the idea that you have to deliver for the country, I think, is the country that's given me everything, given my family everything, is the right thing to do. We have some big challenges ahead of us. We've got war raging on our continent. You know, nobody foresaw a war in Europe for decades. Now, will you run as leader when there's a vacancy? Will you run as leader when there's a vacancy? There's no vacancy. The people who are egging us on to, you know, turn on one another are the people like Alistair Campbell who will never vote Conservative. I'm not talking about Alistair Campbell. No, but what I'm saying to you is... You're talking about the government. When there's a vacancy, will you run? The odds are really good for you at the moment, 10 to 1. Well, first of all, I will be working very hard to make sure that this team continues to deliver. The Prime Minister is focused on delivery. I want to make sure that not only do we rebuild the economy, we've got to grow the economy. You know, we had some good growth, the second fastest growing country this year. It returns to that in 2024. It grows again in 2025. But I've got to make sure we get through 22 and 23, where, you know, we've got inflation, which can be, you know, a really painful thing if we let it you know, get out of control. OK, and that is my focus. It has to be my focus. Let's talk about policy then. What immediate plans did you make with the Prime Minister yesterday when it comes to national insurance, when it comes to cutting taxes, when it comes to tackling inflation, when it comes to corporation tax? What conversations did you have during your longer meeting yesterday? So it was my first day in the job. The conversation we had is my task is to rebuild the economy and to grow the economy. I will look at everything to make sure that we continue to be on the side of people. A tax cut today of £330, the first tax cut in a decade for 30 million people. That's really important. £1,200 for 8 million people who are really being squeezed by this global battle against inflation. That's really important. And you know, once I've looked at the evidence. I'll be very happy to be back on your show, Kay, and share with you what I think we need to do to rebuild and grow. No, I've got to rebuild and grow the economy. We've just come out of the equivalent of a world war, and we've got war raging in Europe because of Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine. We've got to deal with these big things now. I think to indulge in infighting is the wrong thing to do. We've got to unite and deliver.
Well, you wanted to move on to the economy, so we are. We've predicted to have the slowest economy growth in the G7 next year and the highest inflation. Our economic outlook is just not very good, is it?
Well, I just said, so we had the second fastest growth this year, and we're set to return to that in 2024. The gap is 2023. I want to look at what more I can do to make sure we can return to growth. The important thing is to get inflation under control, be fiscally responsible. Well, I'll come back on your programme and very happily talk to you about exactly how I'm going to make sure we do that. The first thing we've got to do is make sure that we are really careful about whether it's public sector pay, so that inflation doesn't continue to be fueled. That fire mustn't be fueled. That will cause even deeper and more painful problems for exactly the people we're trying to help. With the tax cut today, those 30 million people who are getting £330 of a tax cut today will suffer the most if inflation's out of control.
What are you going to do about corporation tax?
I will look at everything. There's nothing off the table. I want to be one of the most competitive countries in the world for investment. I know that boards around the world, when they make investment decisions, they're long-term, and the one tax they can compare globally is corporation tax. And I want to make sure that we are as competitive as we can be whilst maintaining fiscal discipline, of course, working with the Bank of England to make sure that monetary policy is right for this country, and bringing inflation under control. It will abate. My task is to make sure it happens as quickly as possible, and to be on the side of the people who are really hard pressed, which is why today's tax cut.
Like teachers who wanted a 9% pay rise. Well, they wanted more. You said that you would offer them a 9% pay rise. Now that you're in a position to do that, will you still honour that?
So the pledge I will give teachers is we will do 9% for the teachers that are starting in teaching this year. 7.7% next year for them.
So what about other public sector workers? Will they get the same?
And senior teachers will get that 5% that I've proposed. And I will obviously look at the recommendation from the pay review bodies across the board. We're looking
teachers 9%, and then new nurses, you're saying, you can only get 3%.
No, but what I've said to new teachers is I want to get them to £30,000 a year. The public sector review bodies for health, for education, for transport and elsewhere will make recommendations, and I will look at those very, very carefully.
You're not going to be even-handed across the board?
No, you've got to look at the public sector review bodies and then make sure you follow the evidence, and I will obviously working with my colleagues across government, the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay. No, what I'm saying to you is the public sector review bodies, each Secretary of State has made their submission to those review bodies. They will come back to us. We will look at it very carefully, and we'll make an announcement in due course.
What are you going to do about the energy price cap in October?
So again, we have got an energy price cap, which actually does help people. What will happen in October is additional help, that grant that Rishi Sunak delivered so brilliantly, that will help people with the cost of energy. But of course, we'll look at where energy prices are then. There is a spike in energy, you know that, because of the illegal occupation of Ukraine, and we've got to make sure we have energy strategy, with the Prime Minister delivered, by the way, with Kwasi Kwarteng, that allows us to invest in nuclear, very, very important investment, which Labour decided to divest from.
What are you going to do about fuel duty?
I will look at everything. I'm not going to make policy on the
I'm not going to play gotcha questions. I'm not going to ask you how much a litre of petrol is, but I do want to know what you're going to do about fuel duty.
It's my first day in the job, and I will look at everything. I'll be delighted to come back and see you.
You must have done the interview process last night when you went in and said, give me the job as Chancellor. So you must have had some of the answers to some of these questions.
Well, you know my track record, I hope, in government, whether delivering the vaccine or in education and now in the Treasury, is I will look at the evidence and I will share the evidence with the nation, and I will address exactly what we will do. The most important thing is to rebuild the economy post-pandemic and to get growth going again. And tax cuts. We're delivering the first tax cut in a decade today. I'm determined to do more.
Boris Johnson told 80 loyal MPs yesterday that it would now be easier to deliver tax cuts because Rishi Sunak is not there. anymore. So was Rishi Sunak a bad Chancellor?
Not at all. I'm sure, read Boris Johnson's letter to Rishi Sunak and, of course, to
I read Rishi Sunak's letter to him as well.
To Sajid Javid, and Rishi did an excellent job as Chancellor. He's delivered £37 billion of help for those people who need that help because of the global battle against inflation in 12 months.
But you said you were determined to do more, but you can't tell me what more is.
Right, I'm gonna, I hope, repeat one more time. Fiscal discipline, bring inflation under control.
How are you going
to do that? A tax cut today, the first tax cut in a decade.
How are you going to do it?
So it's my first day in the job. I'm going to look at everything, every lever that's available to me to make sure we get this right. Ultimately, we are on the side of people who are, at the moment, struggling with their weekly shops, struggling with paying those energy bills. That's why getting this tax cut today to 30 million people, £330, is so important.
And you have told me that 3 times now. Whatever
and I'll keep repeating it.
Yeah, OK. I've asked you some of the other stuff that you can't answer, but you have promised to come back. So let's see. Whatever you do about taxes, though, and whatever you do about the cost of living, it doesn't erase the shame of this Prime Minister defending sexual harassment at work, does it?
So the Prime Minister gave an interview last night where he spoke about, the mistake that, the benefit of hindsight, he should have never appointed Chris Pincher to Deputy Chief Whip. I think this government is determined to make sure that no one abuses their position or power, and anybody who has a complaint should come forward and make that complaint. Chris Pincher's, the allegations against Chris Pincher were investigated in 2017, were found not to be right. He was appointed by Theresa May as a minister, continued in ministerial office. The allegations in the Foreign Office were investigated and resolved at the time with an apology from Chris Pincher. But with the benefit of hindsight, the Prime Minister is right.
It's a sex pest.
He is right. The Prime Minister was right to apologise and say that with the benefit of hindsight, it was the wrong appointment.
You joked about
we
it.
make decisions.
You said Pincher by name, Pincher by nature.
Kay,
and you want to serve as this man's Chancellor.
Kay, we make decisions at warp speed in government. There are no easy decisions to make. We don't get all those decisions right. It's right for the Prime Minister to come forward and apologise.
Yeah, but if somebody comes to you and says, this bloke, you want to watch out for him for what he's been up to, if somebody actually was face to face with the Prime Minister and he did nothing about it, and then he lied about it.
Well, first of all, we make decisions, you know that. The speed at which we make decisions in government, especially dealing with a pandemic, dealing with a global battle against inflation, war on our continent, we don't get every decision right. The Prime Minister was right to come out and say, look, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm sorry, I made a mistake on appointing Chris Pincher. That's the right thing to do. There's also due process. It's only right that we protect people from any form of abuse or any form of abuse of power by anyone. And actually, anyone watching this programme should know that if they work in government, for any MP or any minister, they can come forward and if they feel that in any way been abused, that's the right thing to do.
Okay,
that culture is the right culture. Okay. To apologise is the right thing to do.
OK. We are
Nothing is ever easy.
Sajid Javid and also Rishi Sunak both questioned the integrity of this Prime Minister. Do you think this Prime Minister has integrity?
I do. I think he...
So we need to know.
Well, because he's determined to deliver for this country.
Good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed, Chancellor. Thank you.